Yo ho everybody, and welcome to another edition of Yinzer on Hockey. So let's go ahead and take a look at tonight's Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Vegas Golden Knights traveling to Washington to take on the Washington Capitals. So far in the series for Vegas, leading scorer has been Riley Smith with 1 goal and 2 assists. Tomek Nosek with 2 goals, no assist. Carlson with a goal and an assist, and a few others with 2 points. Colin Miller, Shea Theodore, Derek England with 2 assists. So pretty good balance throughout Vegas lineup as far as scoring depth goes. For Washington, Nicholas Backstrom has 1 goal and 2 assists. Lars Eller with a goal and 2 assists. Andrei Burakovsky has 3 assists. Alexander Ovechkin 1 goal and 1 assist, and Michael Kempny with 2 assists, and TJ Oshie with 2 assists. So that's the scoring throughout their lineup. Fleury so far this series has only had an .870 save percentage, so he's definitely been slightly more vulnerable this series than he's been so far in the playoffs. But Washington has done a good job making Fleury move laterally, and I don't think Vegas has done as good a job as getting in the shooting lanes or being able to close the distance on the puck carrier to limit that time and space that they've been able to do in the past. They've done it very well against Winnipeg, where Winnipeg was kind of one shot and done. We weren't able to get crisp passes, and they weren't able to move the puck a whole lot in the zone. It seems like Washington's getting a lot more possession time than Vegas gave to Winnipeg, and I think that's been one of the key differences so far in the series. Holtby on the other side hasn't been a ton better. He's got a .903 save percentage in this series so far. He faced 72 shots, so I mean he's seeing a lot of pucks. Just hasn't been great, but hasn't been terrible. Obviously, the save at the end of the second game was the difference in that game. The save he made on, I think it was Alex Tuck at point blank with the paddle of his stick, was just an amazing save. One of the bigger things I noticed from Game 2 was Vegas going out of their way to attack Tom Wilson, and that's what Tom Wilson does, is he will make a play in a game early in a series where it's fringe, whether or not it's dirty or whatever. I think the hit on Jonathan Marchessault was justifiably called a penalty. Maybe not suspension worthy, but given his history, everything he does kind of comes under a microscope. So, but after he gets the attention of the opposing team, it seems like teams react by going out of their way to hit him, to pester him, to try and goad him into taking penalties. And Tom Wilson is not a player that is undisciplined in that regard. He's mildly undisciplined in the way he uses his body to finish checks. I don't think he's 100% in control of his body all the time, but he is not a player that gets easily goaded into taking bad penalties. And Ryan Reeves, especially in the last game, was way outside the lines in his attempts to goat Wilson into engaging, and that severely cost Vegas in that game. By that gave them the power play goal from Ovechkin in the second period, and just that type of mentality is kind of commonplace from a younger team, to just try to impose their energy, try to goat it. And this Washington team is different in the regards that in years past you would see the Tom Wilsons, the TJ Oshies, and players like that kind of let things get under their skin, let things bother them a bit, but they've been more disciplined this year, and I think that's the difference in what we've seen from Washington teams in years past. I think what needs to happen tonight for Vegas to win the game is, I think first of all, they need to win the possession battle. They need to control the shot clock, and they need to win the penalty battle. They need to stay out of the penalty box and try to generate power plays, try to draw penalties, generate power plays, and keep that top line of Washington's off the ice as much as possible, because it's a dangerous line with Kuznetsov and Ovechkin. Pending Kuznetsov played, I know he practiced yesterday, listed as a game time decision, and that could be a big factor as to whether or not Washington's able to win or not. So for Washington, what they need to do is basically replicate Game 2 outside of giving up the odd man rushes. They did have a couple of odd man rushes, including that Alex Tuck chance at the end of the game. I think if they limit the odd man rushes and they play their defensive zone structure like they like to play, or their neutral zone structure like they've played in all of these playoffs with that right wing lock or 1-3-1 or what have you, they can dominate the possession portion of this game with their defense. I know a lot of teams, when it comes to winning possession, they have to get the puck in deep. They got to get in on the cycle, but Washington's been able to win the possession game with their defense because they don't allow teams to carry the puck through the neutral zone, which basically puts onus on the first forward in for the attacking team against Washington, and a lot of teams haven't been able to beat the Washington defense, and that's why Washington is where they are, is they've played a lot more sound defensively than they have in years past, and all 25 players are buying into this defensive system, and it's worked well for them, and you have to commend Barry Trotz for putting it all together. They're now 3 wins away from a Stanley Cup. They got their first Stanley Cup win in Game 2. We'll see if they're able to carry that momentum going forward, or see if Marc-Andre Fleury can have a bounce-back game. We'll have to see where Evgeny Kuznetsov's health is at this stage, and see if he's able to go tonight, because that's obviously going to be a huge difference maker in this series. He is leading the NHL playoffs in points with 25 points for the entirety of the playoffs. So obviously, if he doesn't go, that's going to be a huge factor. That puts a lot more pressure on Nicholas Backstrom, so we don't know where he's at from a health standpoint. He's been winning a lot of face-offs, so it looks like his hand's a bit healthier than it was in the Tampa series. Puts a lot more onus on Lars Eller, and he's been phenomenal in this series so far, so we'll see what Washington has to do to adjust if Evgeny Kuznetsov is not able to play. And for Vegas, it's got to be the Marc-Andre Fleury show. He has got to be the difference maker in this game. I've always said that whichever goaltender in the Stanley Cup final, whichever goaltender steals a game that their team has no business winning, is generally the eventual Stanley Cup champion. Matt Murray stole Game 5 last year, and to an extent stole Game 6 last year against Nashville. He was able to steal Game 4 against San Jose the year before. So, it's always that goaltender that steals a game that your team really statistically shouldn't have won. And that's going to be the difference. I don't think Holtby had to steal Game 2. I think he was very good, but I think Washington was the better team in Game 2, even though they got outshot. I think the quality shots for Washington was a little bit better in Game 2 than it was for Vegas. So that's my take on how I see things going tonight. My prediction for the game, I think it's going to be 3-2 Vegas tonight. And I think it's going to be Marc-Andre Fleury. I think even if Kuznetsov does play, I don't know that he's going to be 100% off of that wrist injury, and he's a center iceman, so his wrist is so important for winning face-offs, for moving the puck. That's all very critical to utilizing the wrist. So I don't know if he'll be very effective if he does play. You kind of seen it with Nicholas Backstrom coming back from his hand injury, where it took him a couple of games to understand how to use his stick with the injury that he had, and he's gotten better over time. So that's my prediction for tonight. We'll see how it goes going forward. I don't know. Every game's a coin flip in this series. I think the series as a whole is a coin flip. My original prediction was for Washington to win in 6 games. I still kind of believe that to be true, but it's kind of anybody's guess at this point. Both of these teams deserve to be here. Both of these teams are playing very well, and I'm excited to see really good hockey going the rest of the way forward through the rest of the Cup final. Let me know what you guys think. What's your take for tonight's game? Who do you got winning in the comments below? Like and subscribe if you're just passing through. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.